Do you know, to this day, my last episode was first week of December 2022, 2.5 years ago. And to this day, hardly a week goes by that somebody out of the blue doesn't reach out to me and mention they found my podcast.
So the podcasts are still there.
Yeah,
people are still listening to them.
Mm-hmm. And I haven't checked the analytics for a while, so I don't know how many, but
you might want to check them.
Yeah, I may take a peek.
This is Word Out, the Park Group podcast, where we shine the light on the people shaping Georgia's future. From business leaders to bold thinkers, local legends to movers and shakers on the rise. These are the people who don't just dream big, they build big. From the boardroom to the backroads, Word Out shares the stories behind the work, the ideas behind the growth, and the people behind it all. Brought to you by the Park Group, offering creative marketing solutions that help people get the word out about their business, service, or event. From web design and social media to complete omni-channel campaigns that create top-of-mind awareness. Contact the Park Group for AI-assisted marketing that gets results. Online at theparkgroup.net.
Peter Williams is Senior Business Consultant at the University of Georgia, SBDC in Macon, serving small businesses in Middle Georgia. With his assistant, Peter's clients have successfully started over 160 new businesses, and have obtained over $85 million in capital from banks and investors. Peter has created and presented educational workshops to audiences throughout Georgia and beyond, including 5 times at National Conferences of Americas, SBDC. His topics have included LinkedIn strategy and best practices, small business acquisitions, and creating effective podcasts. Prior to joining the SBDC in 2013, Peter owned and operated a highly successful merger and acquisition advisory firm he founded in 2002. He previously served as chief financial officer of a venture capital-backed startup, a principal of a private equity investment firm, and an investment analyst and manager. In 2020, he created the LinkedIn Leverage podcast, which includes over 100 episodes. So that's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive bio. How did you end up in Macon, Peter?
That's an interesting question. It all happened pretty fast. I had been doing the investment banking thing independently. I started a firm called Fairview Capital Advisors in 2002 in Atlanta, where we had lived for close to 30 years. And I operated that business for 11 years. The firm was successful, and my wife and I were looking for 2 changes. One, I was looking for a new professional challenge, and not urgently, but just kind of was interested in making a change. And we were interested in finding a smaller city to live in, not a small town, a smaller city. And we came down here for the day. We did that when we were in Atlanta quite frequently. We would go to different places in Georgia for day trips. And we came down here in February of 2012, and we just had a real nice time, just a nice day. We didn't have an agenda. We just kind of looked around and found things to do. And when we were driving back, we both sort of said, I don't remember who said it, but one of us said, that seems like it would be kind of a nice place to live. And somewhere in the course of the next year, I saw a listing somewhere, or it was sent to me from somewhere, that the SBDC in Macon was looking to hire they had an open spot for a business consultant. And I said, that looks really interesting. And long story short, I had my first phone screen interview with the team in the Macon Center in April, very early April of 2013. And blah, blah, blah. I started the job in the middle of June. So it sort of germinated for a while, the idea and the desire to make a move. But when this materialized, it just came together really quick.
Where are you from originally?
I grew up in Milwaukee. I'm like the Braves, I like to say. I grew up in Milwaukee. I went to college in Ripon, Wisconsin, and I came immediately after that. I came down to Atlanta to go to grad school at Emory.
Just give us a little background on UGA SBDC for people who know nothing about it.
Sure. The SBDC, or the Small Business Development Center, is part of the University of Georgia, and where it fits in to the university is in what's called the Public Service and Outreach Division. And our mission is education. If you were going to state that more broadly, it's to enhance the economic well-being of Georgians by providing educational support and resources to small business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs. And we do that two different ways. One, we do one-on-one confidential business consulting by appointment and at no cost. And so that's an important part of what we do. I'm a business consultant. Most of my time on a day-to-day basis is done individually consulting. And then we also do educational programs on small business and entrepreneurship topics that are offered to the public at a low cost. A program that we just finished, actually, 2 week before last, we had our last session. The programs are anywhere between an hour and 5 days. It really runs the gamut. The majority of our programs are webinars, and that's been a transition we've made with the rest of the world since 2020. But we still do offer several programs on an in-person basis. And the program we just finished was called Grow Smart, which is a 5-day program that we present for. Generally, we actually recruit for that one. It's offered to the public, but it's by application. The day before yesterday, conversely, I did a webinar, 1-hour program, which is a new program that I created called From Prompt to Powerhouse, Creating Custom GPTs for Your Business. And the program was very well received. I think there's a growing interest in small business to understand AI and how can I make it work for me in my business. So it, like I say, the programs we have run the gamut. Another program we have coming up is we're doing it for the 6th time now, the 6th annual, and it's a program I started doing in 2019 about business acquisitions. It's called You Want to Buy a Business, What Do You Need to Know? And our partner in that program is actually an SBA lender, Cadence Bank. And one of the sizzle factors for the program is that the last 45 minutes, it's a 3-hour in-person program, the last 45 minutes is comprised of a panel discussion populated by business owners who acquired their businesses. So the people in the class get to fire questions directly at people who have done what they're interested in doing.
Wow. Yeah.
And that usually goes over really well. And what's great is as time has gone by, each year, usually 1, 2, or even all 3 of the panelists are people who took the class previously and moved forward with an acquisition. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Kind of gets everybody in the same room and people that get a little networking going, and one thing leads to another. And well, I've taken part in a couple of your Growth Smart classes. And yeah, they're really, really interesting, really, when you get a mix of people from different businesses and different backgrounds together, and everybody's got a little different point of view and coming at it from a different angle, and just to hear what people's questions are and where they're trying to get to. It's I would just think the synergy around all of that is as valuable as the person who's running the class. The advice they give, but the people just being able to talk amongst themselves, like, what are you doing about this? And what are you doing about that? I think that's a really cool aspect of what you guys do over there.
Yeah, that's something we've noticed over the years, and especially with our Grow Smart program, they do form connections, especially over a period of spending days together. We are careful to make sure that we don't have any competing businesses. It's kind of one business per industry, and that helps to foster free discussion. Nobody has to worry about the person 2 chairs over being, a competitor. But yeah, we've gotten sometimes we send out emails to the whole class, and so they have the list of emails, and we have seen our GrowSmart classes, they'll stay in touch and they'll copy us on the emails like up to a year later, and they're still kind of meeting independently. And that is what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's one of the magic of GrowSmart is just that interaction where they learn from each other.
Yeah. And you do that how many times a year?
One time a year.
One time a year.
And it's usually been in the fall until this year, and going forward, it's going to be in April.
And most of the programs you do over there are annual or
that's the goal. Way. We would like to do it that way. We, if they're successful, we sure add them and do them again. No doubt about that. I did a program on LinkedIn probably 15 to 20 times around the state and in Macon. But several other programs that we've done have been, for example, I did a program about podcasting. I had a podcast for a while, and I did a program about podcasting. I thought and still think that can be, not for every business, but for certain small businesses, that can be a really important weapon in the marketing arsenal, is to have a podcast. And frankly, the market didn't agree. We had some people take the class. We had enough that we went ahead and offered it, but that one was kind of a one and done.
When was that?
That was
how long ago, roughly?
Couple of years.
Maybe the timing. I bet you if you did it now, it would be a different story.
It might be worth trying again.
Picking up. You're seeing more and more of this. When I'm scrolling across Facebook or whatever, and I'm, it's just one clip of a podcast after another, and people are doing it in their houses.
Yeah.
And they're real, informal type settings.
Well, there's a trend to video in podcasting too, which has happened kind of in the last couple of years.
Yeah,
where it's gotten critical mass.
Yeah, I don't. I guess we're just all visual people, and we want to see who's talking, and I like. Sometimes I like to watch, and sometimes I just like to listen. I guess it depends on what the podcast is about, who's doing it, and what time of day it is.
Yeah. Do you watch on YouTube? Is that your go-to for watching video podcasts?
Yeah, YouTube and Spotify. Now.
They have a video?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're letting people upload videos now.
Oh, okay.
So, to me, it's just easier to get to YouTube. Mm-hmm. I struggle with YouTube now. It's on a mobile device. They're throwing ads at me a lot, and a lot of times I listen to podcasts at night. Even when I'm trying to sleep, it'll give my brain something to latch onto and kind of shut down. And I usually fall asleep almost immediately, but hopefully some of that stuff will sink in. But, with YouTube, sometimes, right in the middle of a podcast, they'll throw this ad in.
Oh, yeah, right.
And it's like, I'm not,
yeah.
I love advertisers, but not in the middle of my podcast. Put it in the beginning or the end, but don't surprise me with it, especially if I have headphones on or something like that.
Right.
I mean, it'll scare me. But so let's go back to LinkedIn you were talking about. So you're a LinkedIn guru, apparently, from what I've heard and what I know about you. You said you were, how long have you had your LinkedIn podcast?
Well, I don't have it anymore.
Oh, okay.
But what's really interesting, I started doing that, and I think a lot of people started doing podcasts about the same time I did, right after the pandemic started. You have a little more time. You don't really have the same options for social activities, and you're like, okay, well, maybe now's the time to start something. So I started the podcast the 1st of June. I worked on it kind of the week after Memorial Day, and sent out the first episode the first week of June. And what I tried to do the first, I was like, I'm going to try a podcast, but I don't necessarily want to commit to this weekly activity from now until the end of time.
Yeah.
So I presented it as a series. So this is season 1. And I kind of recorded 13 episodes. It's a how-to. So I'm the only speaker. So I could record those in advance and set them for release. And I sort of did that for 4 seasons. And then I got the idea, you know what? I'm going to try something that I haven't tried yet. I'm going to try to do an episode every week for a year and just see what happens. And I did that. And the audience really responded. The audience grew dramatically kind of over that time. There wasn't any one episode or 1 week where there was a spike, but it gradually really increased, which was, I mean, we're all about numbers, right?
Oh yeah.
Even though it's like, what difference does it make?
Well, I mean,
but especially for me, I wasn't trying to make money on it or anything like that. But you get excited when you see your numbers go up. And this is where I kind of have this belief for small business. Do you know, to this day, my last episode was first week of December 2022, 2.5 years ago. And to this day, hardly a week goes by that somebody out of the blue doesn't reach out to me and mention they found my podcast.
Huh. So the podcasts are still there.
Yeah,
people are still listening to them.
Mm-hmm. And I haven't checked the analytics for a while, so I don't know how many, but
you might want to check them.
Yeah, I may take a peek. I may take a peek one of these days if I still remember the password.
Well, I think, LinkedIn, from what I know about it, I mean, they don't change the platform that much. They may add to it or everything. So I would think that everything that you probably talk about in your podcast is still relevant.
Some of it is, probably a lot of it. Yeah.
Now, you told me the story one time. You were somewhere and traveling. You were was it New Mexico or Arizona?
Arizona. And I was in like a newsstand at an airport. And I was asking the person behind the counter, I was raising my voice a little bit because they were a few steps behind. I said, do you have something like that? And somebody behind me, they hadn't seen my face, and they said, that voice is, are you Peter Williams? And I turned around thinking it would be somebody I know. It was not. And it was somebody who just said, I listened to your podcast. So I guess I've got a distinctive voice, but that's it. That's that voice connection, that human interaction. I mean, I think now all of my podcasts are audio. None of them are video. And that's another thing I tell consulting clients is think about video for your website or other venues that you're making content for, because videos are the most close approximation to what it's like meeting you in person that you can produce and put on a screen. But I found out, I think voice is right up there with it. What do you sound like? How do you communicate? How do you react? So I think for that reason, podcasting can be real valuable.
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking, maybe the fact that it was just an audio podcast makes people really lock on to your voice.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it stick a little more than if it was a video and audio type thing. I don't know. I just
could
have something to do with it. But yeah, I always say that, when I've always done video for businesses and business owners, I'll say, my job is I'm going to be honest with you. If I think it's not good, I'm going to tell you to redo it. I'm going to tell you why. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, because my job is to make people like you, make you a likable person. So if people like you, they're going to want to do business with you, right? Some people just don't come across as good as other people on camera. So, there's some work involved with some people. Some people, it's just one and done. But some you're like, do it again, do it again, do it again. I don't believe you. I still don't believe you. Still don't believe you. But yeah, so I get it. The video is the quickest way. And especially now with, that's how we communicate, is through video conferencing and everything. So it's like normal.
Right. And some of these platforms, I think Zoom, well, I mean, more than just way beyond just Zoom, but for example, LinkedIn has the, a built-in ability to do lives. They call them lives, where you as a LinkedIn user, and I don't believe there's an extra cost. I don't think this is a premium function. Anyone can do it. You set up a LinkedIn Live where you're speaking. It's a video, and you can speak, or you can have somebody else kind of log in and the two of you speak, and 5, 10, 100, 500 people can attend and fire questions at you in the chat and so forth. But I've seen people use those lives. They kind of cut them up and release them as podcasts, or release them in parts as podcasts, or repurpose them in social media posts. And so just the video infrastructure and software is even conducive to promotions and familiarity and all those kinds of things.
Well, that's what I'm hoping to do with this, right? you know where this is going. But yeah, that now it's getting to the point now though where, is it real or is this an avatar? Which kind of, and people are like, you can do faceless videos and you don't even have to be on camera. Done. It's like, I'm not into that yet. I maybe one day, or maybe I'll be gone when that becomes like the norm and people really want to start acting like these things are real.
Yeah. Well, so far the AI created, have you seen those? I'm sure you have, where you can actually create a real person and you do a voice capture and then have them kind of talking, and they're close. I mean, they're getting close, but they're still kind of twitchy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you can still spot the problems, but it ain't going to be long.
I've seen some really good AI stuff where I'm looking at it. I'm going, is that? I don't know. I don't think that's a real person.
Yeah.
But it's a really good job of not being a real person.
Yeah.
It's like they took a real person and turned it into, it's AI generated, but it's using a real person because the face and everything's just too perfect.
Right.
Right. It's cheating, right?
Yeah.
You guys recently did, I guess Josh was telling me he was over in Columbus. There was a workshop about AI in business. Were you part of that?
I was not part of that. But it's interesting. We're decentralized. We have 18 centers around the state, and, I got my idea for a program one day, and I talked to my area director, Lisa Rackley, and I said, I'd like to put together a program like this. I told her for 5 minutes, this is kind of what I'm thinking the outline would be. And she said, go for it. So we did it. We have another program coming up next week, Tuesday, that's more specific AI techniques to be used in marketing that one of my colleagues around the state is offering, Nima Etheridge, and she's our area director in Albany, and she's amazing. Her knowledge and ability to communicate. That's going to be a 2-hour webinar, and I can't wait to see it. But yeah, we've got things going on all over the state. And one of the things actually I'm kind of excited about, America's SBDC, which is our industry trade group. There's an SBDC in every state, but we're more of a confederation, and we have this trade group that helps us with professional development and those sorts of things. And they put together a 7-hour online training in AI, and they're offering, I think it's 2 full days at our national conference, and they're working with Google to put the training together.
Oh, wow.
So we're all kind of fighting with each other to get picked to be able to be included in that. But we're trying to stay even or ahead of our clients on the AI side of things, just so we can help them.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever seen anything like this? I mean, as far as something that's come in so quickly, it's like they dropped it on us.
It's happened so fast.
Bam, 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 bam. Now everybody's running to try to catch up or get ahead.
Yeah, it's
of
happened
what's next
so quickly.
It's I haven't. It's helped me a lot. As a matter of fact, I was gonna. I'm not gonna make you answer these questions, but I have my podcast producer is an AI agent. I created.
Oh, wow.
I just said, hey, you're my podcast producer. Here's the type, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm after. Here's all this
Wow.
details. And so I just spit in there and I give them your profile.
Yeah.
And it links to your bio and your LinkedIn and everything. So I come up with some questions for my next guest. And then here it is right here. I'm going to read them just so you don't have to answer them.
Okay.
Now there's a couple of them in here that have specific business names in there. I probably should skip those.
If they're clients, I wouldn't be able to say their names.
Found them. All right. So I won't include those. So here's the first one. You transitioned from roles in private equity and as a CFO to becoming a senior consultant at the SBDC. What motivated this shift, and how have your previous experiences influenced your approach to consulting small businesses? That sounds like an interview question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, like a job interview question.
Yeah, right.
What motivated this shift and how? So, I mean, it's a good question.
It is a good question.
It's one that you would want to have ahead of time, I would think.
Yeah. I have answered questions like that a lot. So I think I might be able to.
Do you want to
ad lib it?
You want to try to answer it?
Well,
I was just using this as just a sample.
Well, it's interesting. I think I touched on the motivation for it earlier, but one thing I was really interested in, and I've told this story a few times, is when I was interviewing for this job, I was sort of prepared to answer how I would transition. What would my skills? How would it work to make a transition? And I was thinking of it in terms of, well, I work with clients, or in private equity, we owned businesses for our own account, and we kind of participated at the board level, helped with brainstorming and strategy and that kind of thing. And I would try to relate those experiences to assisting clients, which is the main part of this job. And what I realized after I had been there for about one morning on the first day of work was the biggest similarity to this position to what I'd done formerly was I was a small business owner.
Yeah.
That's the biggest similarity easily.
Huh.
And so that's, the transition was immediate.
Mm.
It really was easy to do.
All right. Good answer. Having founded a successful merger and acquisition advisory firm in 2002, what were some key lessons you learned as an entrepreneur that you now pass on to your clients? Kind of the same type question.
Yeah. For me, and without going into the story of it was almost magical the way things fell into place for me. And I didn't do some of the things that I would recommend anybody do. And if I had it to do over, I would do in terms of planning. I just kind of jumped in, and I had business. I made money every month I was in business, including month one. And it was a unique set of circumstances that made it work out that way. But I would do more planning, and I think I would do more marketing too.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I learned.
Yeah. As far as planning, like what type of planning? Just like, short term, long term. What does it look like? What does the exit look like, kind of thing? Or
more shorter term. The investment banking or merger and acquisition advisory is very project oriented work.
Oh.
And when you've got 2 or 3 or 4 engagements going on, you just are head down working on those engagements. And I didn't spend any time thinking about, positioning myself or, where's the next opportunity going to come from? How do I want to structure a team? Or any of those sorts of things. And I think I would do it a little different. I would at least take a breath before I started and write down a plan and just kind of let that thought process work its magic. I just kind of jumped in and started doing things that were familiar in terms of I know what to do merger and acquisition advisory, but I didn't think about it as a business. I sort of thought about it as just a continuation instead of, can I create something here? Really create something that has a structure of its own.
Yeah, and I think that's just normal for people when you move into something like that. It sort of gradually grows. You just don't know where it's going to go, and so it's hard to sit down and plan for something that you can't even see what's out there. It's just like you're just taking one step at a time. But then when you look at it in retrospect, you're like, I should have probably done this there. And then when that happened, but at the time, you had no idea what was about to happen, right?
Right.
So,
and I can remember people saying that to me at the time, asking me questions about my plan, and I just gave them blank stares. I mean, it just wasn't even on my radar screen.
Yeah. Well, and I would imagine that huge, very beneficial when you're talking to people who are starting a new business in your role now. Say, do you have a plan? Well, no. Can you help me?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Let's move on to the next one. Being named the UGA SBDC's Consultant of the Year in 2019 is a significant accolade. What does this recognition mean to you, and how has it impacted your work with small business?
Did you what kind of an accolade did you say?
It says
a meaningful.
Remember this one?
Meaningful accolade.
Significant.
That was just an amazing feeling for me because we have so many great consultants in our organization. I could go through everybody in our organization and easily tell you something just impressive, just great about that individual and the work that they do. So to be singled out for that accolade was easily one of the top 5 highlights for me in my life. It really was. And I was happy this year we've never had the same winner twice. The award goes back, I think, 20 years, 20 plus years. We've never had the same winner twice. And we had a person named Todd Anduzzi who won the award this year. And Todd, it's always great when the winner is surprised.
Oh yeah.
And Todd was surprised, and I'm just so happy for him because I'm sure he feels the same way I did. It's just this recognition. To stand out from a group that is just such an outstanding group.
Oh, that's pretty cool. All right, now this goes into professional expertise and client success. You've assisted clients in obtaining over $85 million in capital. What strategies do you find most effective when helping small businesses secure funding?
Well, that number has actually been updated. It's about 115 million now.
I was going to say this is probably old.
The business starts. The next business that I help start will actually be number 200. So, what goes into it? a plan. Usually the bank usually wants to see a plan. They usually want to see financial projections. And that's what we're all about, helping people put together. I think the consulting piece of it, there's the specific things on the checklist that a bank is going to want, which are that we can help with, which are the business plan and the financial projections. But I think what I enjoy, and it's less tangible, but I think our clients appreciate that from myself and other colleagues who do the same thing, is the education. What can you expect? What kind of questions can you expect from the bank? Or what can you expect once the bank has all the requested information from you? What can you expect in terms of an approval or the approval process? Or what are the steps to get to closing? And you kind of help them anticipate and help them understand that. A lot of times the clients who are looking for help, there's two categories. They are looking to raise capital, and but they don't have good banking contact, or they don't have a specific banking connection or contact.
Right.
So that's another thing we can help them with is, why don't you talk to these 2 or 3 bankers that we think would be a fit for whatever reason, location or industry or whatever it might be, or even personal chemistry. I think you'd be real comfortable with this banker.
Oh, okay.
Other times, banks realize the help that we provide to these clients, and that when a client of ours shows up looking for a loan, they're going to be well prepared.
Uh-huh.
So bankers, a lot of times, if somebody goes to the bank first, the banker will say, why don't you talk to Peter Williams at the SBDC or Lisa Rackley at the SBDC? And if that's the case, we get them ready and we send them back to that bank.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
so
I get that.
right. So there's some variety there, but yeah, just trying to give them a general awareness. And I can't count the number of times I've gotten a phone call, from a borrower. Hey, what's going on? They're somewhere along in the process, but hadn't closed yet. And the question, something they've never encountered before, but I have, through my clients, dozens and dozens of times. So I can help them navigate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's such a big deal for somebody to be able to, especially, it's
Oh yeah.
charge.
Yeah.
To be able to pick up the phone and call and say, hey, this is what I've run into, or what am I missing here? What should I know that I don't even know yet?
Right.
Well, you need to look out for this, and probably ought to have this. And, when
Right.
you show up at the bank, they're going to look for this and that and that. Save a lot of time for everybody, including the people at the bank,
Right.
to get the legwork done up front. I'm looking at some of these other questions. Some of these are like case studies with specific businesses in here. We'll skip those. We've already talked about LinkedIn and podcasting. So let's just go to the end here. It says future outlook and advice, trends in small business development. What emerging trends do you foresee in small business development, particularly in the context of digital marketing and financing? Any trends? I think we've talked about,
Yeah.
what trends. AI is the trend, right?
AI is the one everybody's got their eye on. That's for sure, including the SBDC. I was surprised though. I think I was surprised. I'll say something. We've had groups of business owners together in which we've asked the question, how much are you tuned into, or how much do you use AI? And the reaction was not as unanimous as I would have expected.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think the smaller businesses, I think the large incumbents have jumped in with all their resources and all their hiring power to throw teams at AI. But I think the smaller businesses I think they're about to get there. And I think they're going to need more tools kind of created for them. A lot of people use AI by accident, right? By logging onto Microsoft Office. Whoops, what's Copilot?
Right.
You're using AI.
Yeah.
So that seems to be the big one.
Yeah. Had someone in here the other day and we were talking about it. And, at first, when I first started using it, I didn't want to tell anybody, Right. Like, shh, don't tell anybody I'm using this, like cheating, I'm supposed to do this myself. But what I found out is, and I think this is going to become more and more, not just in business, but in just relationships. People are going to form relationships with their chat, their AI. Because I use mine as something to brainstorm with. And I can't tell you how great it is for that. I mean, I can sit there and ask it a question, or I can, say, what do you think about this? Which is crazy. Mm-hmm. And it'll spit something back out at me. I'm like, no, I never thought about that. And then I'll, head down that way and it'll say, hey, you want me to, it'll give you some more ways to prompt it to do more. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's, the problem I have with it is stopping, because I'll get on there and it'll just be, I'll go back and look at this thread that I've created and be like, I've gone down so many rabbit holes now that I don't even know where to start. So I'll have to start a new one. Like, all right, I'm gonna pick out one little part of this whole conversation and start a new conversation just on that and try to consolidate all these thoughts into one thought that I can actually move on. Right. So yeah, and somebody was in here the other day and I asked him, I said, are you using, I can't remember what it was they were trying to do. He was having to write something, having to create some kind of, I don't know if it was a newsletter or a PR piece or something. And I said, are you using ChatGPT? He's like, what? It's just use it. Just try it. Yeah. It's not hard. It's very easy to use. You just type in what you want it to do and it'll spit something out. Now you don't just copy and paste that, obviously, but it's a good starting point, a really good starting point.
There's a guy, Ethan Malik, who is an entrepreneurship professor at the Wharton School. And he's kind of transformed himself to be a leading expert in AI. And he's a great follow on LinkedIn. He makes between 1 and 3 really valuable posts per day on what's going on in AI. I don't know how he ever sleeps. He's so productive, but he wrote a book called Co-Intelligence. And what you just voiced is sort of his advice for this is how you should get used to using AI, is always invite AI to the table. Talk to it like a person, parentheses, but tell it what kind of person it is. Yeah, Number 3, be the human in the loop. Back to your point, you don't just cut and paste and check it, because they still make a lot of errors, relatively speaking. And then number 4, realize the AI you're using today is the worst you're ever going to use. Because they are spending so much money on advancements that it's what you're working with today a week from now is going to look archaic.
Yeah, it's almost scary to me to really delve into where it's going when they're talking about how these agents that you create that do these jobs. Their job will be to create agents, whose job will be to create agents, and so on and so on and so on. I mean, where does that go?
Where does that go?
Yeah. How do you get on the other side of that and look back and go, here's where this is headed? You just don't know.
Yeah. It's like a paradox almost.
Yeah, it really is. It's like it's going to circle all back around and come back to where we are now. I don't know. But it's definitely moving fast. Look, I know you got to get back. So here's one last question here. What key piece of advice would you offer to someone looking to start their own business in today's fast-paced digital world?
one piece. I would, it's a cliche, but go for it. Do it. I see people a lot of times they get into ready, aim, and they never go for it. And I think sometimes that's driven by a fear of failure, which is, I heard Michael Jordan say this in his Hall of Fame speech. He said, limitations are like fears. They're often imaginary. And fear of failure in a small business, failure isn't final. So, use your skills, give it your best shot, and you got as good a chance as anyone else.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice. Peter, thanks for coming.
Sure.
This has been Word Out, the Park Group podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, share it, leave a review, and make sure you're subscribed for more conversations with the people moving Georgia forward. Word Out is produced locally and sponsored by the Park Group, helping Georgia business leaders get the word out with AI-assisted marketing that gets results. Learn more at theparkgroup.net.